Welcome to the Gracefully Wired Show, conversations and teachings for neurodivergent women choosing purpose, faith, abundance, and emotional freedom. I'm your host, Deb, your neurodivergent success strategist. This is our space to breathe, learn, and grow, one gentle, grace-filled step at a time. Today, I want to tell you the story of Gideon, a gentle story for God's differently wired, beautifully made daughters. Long ago, there was a man named Gideon, and Gideon did not feel brave. In fact, when our story begins, Gideon is hiding, not kind of hiding, not just keeping a low profile. He is literally down in a wine press, a little pit in the ground, trying to quietly prepare wheat so the enemies wouldn't come and steal it. He was just trying to get through the day without someone bothering him. If you've ever sat in your car an extra 10 minutes before going inside anywhere, trust me, you understand Gideon. God's people were having a really hard time back then. The Midianites, big, mean bullies, kept stealing all the food and animals. Every time the people planted crops, the Midianites swooped in like locusts and took everything. So everyone was very scared. Everyone was overwhelmed. Everyone was tired, including Gideon. And right there in that little hiding place, something incredible happened. An angel appeared. Imagine Gideon minding his business, covered in dust, doing his work quietly, and suddenly an angel is standing there, bright and calm, and not hiding at all. And the angel says, the Lord is with you, mighty warrior. Now Gideon looked around like, who? Me? Mighty? Are you talking to the man hiding in a hole? Because he's not mighty, he's cautious. But the angel meant him. God meant him. Gideon told the angel, I'm from the weakest family, and I'm the least important one in the weakest family. It was Gideon's way of saying, I'm not brave enough. I'm not strong enough. I'm not the one you want. Have you ever felt like that? Like everyone else seems more put together, more confident, more ready than you? Gideon understood that feeling, but God didn't agree with Gideon's self assessment. God said, Go in the strength you have. I will be with you. Now, Gideon believed God, but he needed a little help believing, like believing. So he asked for signs. Then he asked for another sign. And then, because his brain needed to be absolutely sure, he reversed the test and asked again. And do you know what God did? He answered every single request, not annoyed, not impatient, just kind, because God understood Gideon's wiring. Finally, Gideon gathered a big army. This felt right. It felt safe. But God said, You have too many men. Gideon blinked. Too many. Wasn't the whole goal to have more? But God kept reducing the army from thousands to 10,000 down to 300 men. 300. That's not even a marching band. Gideon must have thought, Lord, I don't think you've seen the other guys. But God had a plan. God told Gideon to give every man a trumpet, a jar, and a torch hiding inside the jar. No swords, no spears, no big warrior weapons, just jars and lights. Probably felt like they were going to Bible camp, not a battle. But Gideon obeyed. In the middle of the night, Gideon's tiny army surrounded the enemy camp. At Gideon's signal, they broke the jars, lifted the torches, and blew their trumpets. The Midianites woke up terrified, confused, and convinced a giant army was attacking them. They ran away and destroyed each other in the chaos. And Gideon's little team of 300, the ones who didn't look strong enough, won the whole battle. God's big lesson. Gideon learned something that day. Being brave doesn't mean you never feel scared. It means trusting God while you feel scared. God didn't choose Gideon because he was the strongest. He chose him because he had a plan, and he knew Gideon would listen even from a place of fear. God was with him in the hiding place. God was with him in the doubts. God was with him in all the questions. And God was with him in the victory, just like he's with you. Friend, you might feel like Gideon, hiding, overwhelmed, not confident, not the strongest in the family, double checking everything, asking God for reassurance, sometimes more than once. And still, God calls you mighty before you ever feel mighty. Here are some takeaways from Gideon. God meets you where you are, even in hiding. Gideon was in a hole. God found him anyway. God calls you by your real name, not your feelings. Gideon felt weak. God said warrior. Asking questions doesn't bother God. Gideon asked for signs 3 different ways. God stayed patient. God uses what you have, even if it feels small. Gideon's army shrank and shrank, and God still brought victory. You can feel scared and still be called. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's trusting God in the middle of it. So let's break it down. Let's look at Gideon through the eyes of a neurodivergent woman. Gideon was overwhelmed, hiding, and just trying to get through the day. Gideon was literally in a wine press, a hole in the ground, trying to do his work where nobody could see him. Women today hide in different ways, staying in the car before going inside, avoiding calls or texts, drinking at work, masking in social situations, functioning in quiet corners because the world feels too loud. God meets people in hiding. He finds us before we feel ready. God called Gideon something he didn't feel, mighty warrior. This is the part that makes women pause. God didn't say become mighty. He said you are mighty. God speaks to your identity, not your insecurities. He sees you as strong, capable, chosen, valuable, necessary, long before you ever see it in yourself. Gideon questioned everything, and God didn't shame him. Gideon needed proof, not once, but several times. He double checked, then triple checked, then reversed the test and checked again. This wasn't weakness, it was wiring. God didn't say, stop overthinking. He honored Gideon's process. God doesn't get tired of your clarifying questions. Your need for reassurance does not disqualify you. Gideon felt unqualified, and God still chose him. Gideon said, my family is the weakest, and I am the least in my family. He literally said, I'm the worst one in the group. How many women feel this? I'm behind. I don't have it together. Other women are more confident. I don't show up consistently. Everyone else seems ahead. Yet God specializes in choosing the unlikely. God reduced his army until the odds looked impossible. God brought Gideon from 32,000 men down to 10,000, down to 300. Sometimes life feels like this: fewer resources, less energy, less support, smaller capacity, more pressure. And we think God must have made a mistake. But sometimes God reduces our army so we learn that victory isn't about having more, it's about trusting Him. God let Gideon overhear something to encourage him. When Gideon was scared, God didn't scold him. He gently sent him to overhear a dream that confirmed the victory. God will send encouragement into your life the same way. A word from a friend, a verse that hits differently, a moment that brings clarity, a confirmation that gives peace. God knows your nervous system. He knows what you need to keep going. Gideon won the battle without fighting in the usual way. Gideon didn't win with swords. He won with jars, torches, and trumpets. God used strategy, not strength. Friend, victory in your life may not look like other women's victories. Your path may be different. Your wiring may require different tools. Your pace may be slower, but God still brings victory. God works with your wiring, not against it. Gideon reminds us of something many neurodivergent women have never been told. You can be scared and still chosen, overwhelmed and still anointed, unsure and still exactly who God wants to use. God didn't wait for Gideon to get confident. He partnered with him right where he was, doubts, questions, fear, and all. And he will do the same for you. Here are some takeaways. God speaks to your identity, not your insecurity. He calls you mighty even when you feel small. Needing reassurance is not a flaw. God met Gideon's questions with patience. Your hiding places don't hide you from God's calling. Even you are seen even in the quiet corners of life. You don't need a large army to move forward. God works with what you have. Your wiring is not a barrier to God, it's a doorway. He made you this way on purpose. Many neurodivergent women feel this deeply, capable on the outside, overwhelmed on the inside, strong in some areas, struggling in others, and misunderstood by people who think we're dramatic or too sensitive. God doesn't call you based on how you feel. He calls you based on who you are and who He made you to become. When you feel the least mighty, that's usually when God is building something in you. Start small, one brave step today. Thanks for spending this time with me. If you want deeper support, community, and accountability, you're always welcome inside our Gracefully Wired Women on Facebook. And if something today spoke to you, share the episode with a friend who needs a little grace. See you next time.